When you hear the name Airbnb, you probably think of vacation rentals, unique stays, and an app that lets you book anything from a city apartment to a castle halfway across the world. It's one of the most recognizable travel brands on the planet. But have you ever wondered why it's called Airbnb? The answer is surprisingly literal. Airbnb is short for AirBed Breakfast, because that's exactly what the company originally offered: air mattresses on the floor of an apartment, along with breakfast in the morning. What started as a desperate attempt by two roommates to make rent eventually evolved into a business worth billions of dollars. And the strangest part? If a design conference in San Francisco hadn't run out of hotel rooms, Airbnb might never have existed at all. To understand how AirBed Breakfast became Airbnb, we need to go back to 2007. At the time, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia were struggling. The two friends had recently moved to San Francisco and were trying to establish careers as designers. Money was tight, very tight. Their rent was due, and they didn't have enough cash to cover it. Then an opportunity appeared. A major design conference was coming to the city. Hotels were fully booked. Thousands of attendees suddenly needed somewhere to stay. Joe had an idea. What if they turned their apartment into temporary accommodation? They didn't have spare bedrooms. They didn't even have guest beds. But they did have a few inflatable air mattresses. So they created a simple website offering travelers a place to sleep. For a small fee, guests would receive an airbed, breakfast in the morning, and local hospitality from their hosts. They called the idea AirBed Breakfast. 3 guests took them up on the offer. One was a woman from Boston. Another was a father of 5 from Utah. The third was a man from India. The experience turned out to be more than just a way to make money. It showed that complete strangers were willing to trust one another. People would actually stay in someone else's home, and hosts were willing to open their doors. The idea had potential. At least that's what Chesky and Gebbia believed. Most other people weren't convinced. The pair brought in a third co-founder, Nathan Blecherczyk, to help build the business. Together, they launched a more formal version of the website. But growth was painfully slow. Investors rejected them, again, and again, and again. Some reportedly thought the concept was absurd. Why would anyone stay in a stranger's house? And why would anyone let strangers into their home? To make matters worse, the founders were running out of money. Desperate to keep the company alive, they turned to an unlikely source: breakfast cereal. During the 2008 U.S. presidential election, they created limited edition cereal boxes called Obama O's and Captain McCain's. The novelty products generated enough money to help fund the struggling startup. More importantly, the stunt demonstrated the founders' creativity and determination. Eventually, they caught the attention of Y Combinator, one of Silicon Valley's most prestigious startup accelerators. Under the guidance of investor Paul Graham, the founders refined their approach. One piece of advice proved particularly important: go meet your users. The founders traveled to New York, where many of their listings were located. They met hosts face-to-face. They photographed properties themselves. They listened to customer feedback. The improvements worked. Bookings increased. Trust grew. The company finally began gaining momentum. But as the business expanded beyond air mattresses and simple breakfasts, its original name started to feel limiting. People were listing spare bedrooms, entire apartments, vacation homes, unique properties. The company was becoming much more than airbeds. Eventually, AirBed Breakfast was shortened to Airbnb. The new name kept a connection to the company's origins while giving it room to evolve. It was familiar, memorable, and flexible enough to support much bigger ambitions. Over time, Airbnb transformed the travel industry. It challenged traditional hotels, created new income opportunities for homeowners, and fundamentally changed how millions of people experience travel. Today, travelers can book beach houses, tree houses, cabins, luxury villas, and even historic castles through the platform. Most people never stop to think about what the name actually means, because Airbnb has become larger than the phrase it came from. Few users hear Airbnb and think, AirBed Breakfast. They simply think, travel. But behind one of the world's biggest hospitality brands is a surprisingly humble beginning. Pair of struggling roommates, a rent payment they couldn't afford, 3 inflatable mattresses, and a simple idea that sounded ridiculous to almost everyone else. So why is Airbnb called Airbnb? Because before it became a global travel giant, it was literally an airbed and breakfast. And perhaps that's the real lesson behind the name. Some of the world's biggest companies don't begin with grand visions of changing entire industries. Sometimes they start with a problem as ordinary as trying to pay the rent. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories behind the world's biggest brands. And let us know in the comments, which brand should we investigate next?